Before making this gorgeous Koa wood landing net, my wife used to say I was a little bit obsessed with fly fishing. And then after showing her this, I think she's come around. So follow along here as I take you step by step through building this one of a kind landing net from figured Koa wood. So my Koa strips have been setting up here in my form for the last couple hours to dry into shape. So that's all I'm doing right here is just taking them, placing them in the form that they'll eventually be glued up in, but getting them to that final shape. So now they're gonna have a memory to them. But in the process, you saw after 15 minutes in the steamer that they actually had some checking going on here, and it's pretty substantial. So what I did in the middle of all of this, you gotta work pretty quick as it's cooling. I actually just applied some Gorilla Glue and then I hit it with a clamp right on each one of those spots to try and just pull it in. We'll see if it works. Koa is so hard to find, especially strips like this, that I'm just gonna kind of power through and see what I end up with. And now we're gonna walk over to my bandsaw. I'm gonna show you how I make the cutout for the actual handle itself. Then it's all glue time. And now I'm going to go ahead and release the clamps, get this guy out of the mold, and then I'm gonna chisel away at a bunch of that Gorilla Glue overflow. So after I go on the bandsaw and I get it kind of cleaned up around the handle area, I'll go into my G0458 Grizzly open end drum sander, and it'll kind of flatten off everything nicely. Then it's on to router and hand sanding, and then some other sanding. So there's a lot of work left, but right now we're gonna see how it looks. And then I'm also gonna check to see how that cracked area works on the radius, the bend part. So take a look at that. That little fancy bearing it's in place. This cut should be about 3/16 of an inch deep, which seems pretty excessive. I've never used this bit before. I'm going to do something mildly stupid right now, and I'm going to put some electrical tape on that bearing to pack it out so it's maybe 1/8 of an inch deep. Will that work? I don't know. We'll find out. Whoops. Well, sometimes life gets a little bit rushed and you accidentally erase the super beautiful footage showing your priceless net being drilled for mounting the net basket. Whoopsie. Luckily, once you build a few nets, it kind of becomes a bit of an addiction and you have a few just hanging around. So I'm going to use this oak and walnut net to walk you through the drilling pattern I use for ensuring a good support of the silicone catch and release net that I'll be actually putting in the Koa one shortly. Oh, and I'll put a link to the net used down in the description. It's important to remember that there's a ton of nets out there and they'll all mount a little bit differently. The key is to ensuring that there's an even tie-in where there's no sagging or stretch of the silicone, or as little as possible. Hole placement isn't really complex. You just need a slightly oversized bit, a sharp pencil, a tape measure, and the actual net you plan to use on hand. A small clamp or two can also be very handy to get the best results. Basically, on this style of net basket, I'm taking 2 holes that are spaced center to center a 1/2 inch apart, followed by a 1.5 inch space between, then repeated that all the way around. Now that's with this size of net right here on the Koa, and the one, the oak and walnut net, will actually be 2 inches spacing between 1/2 inch sections. I like to drill several sections of holes, check a rough fit, and then keep going until I reach the end of the string channel on the opposite side. And when you're done drilling, you get some bonus points if you take a Dremel with a ball end tool and kind of countersink the holes, each hole inside and out, to get rid of any rough spots where the line might catch. And after that, a bit more sanding, and then it's on to finish, which I also conveniently lost. To finish this net was 7 coats of clear glossy urethane and light sanding of 400 grit and steel wool between each coat. With all that done, now I can show you the basket being sewn into the Koa wood net. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you really like the net and can maybe use some of the steps for your own future build. And please consider subscribing, which is right up here, for more builds like this, as well as fish carvings and some other cool projects that happen to roll through my little shop. Thanks again. Oh, and there's another video. It's right there. Check that one out.